I'm Anthony. I help organizations to see risk clearly, practically, and without the jargon. Now, two competent people look at the same risk, and one of them gives a 16 score, and the other give it a 9. Who's right? You will be surprised that the hard reality is that they both might actually be right. And not because one is smarter than the other, because the risk assessment matrix they were using had a loose shared definition of what those numbers meant, or maybe the RAM itself was not calibrated. And that is a problem I see in most organizations I walk into. If you watch the risk register video, you know that a risk register, what it is, and how you are also to use the tripod formula, the event cause consequence. So today we go one layer deeper on how do you actually rate risks once you have them described. By the end of this video, you'll be able to understand what a risk assessment matrix is, the RAM, what it's doing when you add a couple of dimensions to make it work for your organization effectively, and how to spot the main pitfalls that comes with using it. Here is the plan in 7 steps that we will cover today. First, we'll start with what the RAM definition is. Then I'm going to show you how to add the dimension concepts. Then we are going to cover how to calibrate this RAM. Then we'll move on into 3 common pitfalls for the RAM. Then the advantages about manual versus automated systems, work out an example, and finally the limitations of the whole risk assessment matrix. So let's get into it. What is a risk assessment matrix? Also, I'll be referring as a just RAM on this video. To demystify the anatomy of the RAM, basically it has 2 axes. One, the likelihood, and another, the consequence. So far, so good. If you multiply 2 numbers, you get a score. You can then plot them in a color-coded green, yellow, orange, red, whatever fits the organization, and that's how you get a priority. That's the simple version of it, and that's all there is to it at its core. What more people miss is when you multiply the scores, this is not just mathematics. You are not just measuring a physical quantity. You are ranking risks related to each other. So a score of 12 is not twice as bad. It's simply higher on a priority list. The matrix is a comparison tool, not a formula, not a prescribed formula. So you have to be mindful of this. Now, the color bands are just ranges that can be customized as well. And for an organization averse to risk, everything that lands between 12 and 15 might be red, for example, while for another, it might be orange. This means that a score of 12 or a score of 15 can get a different treatment in reality based on how you have calibrated your own RAM in your organization. That is the first place where things go wrong with calibrating RAMs, but we'll come back to that. Now, section 2 of this video, how to add dimensions to a RAM. This is the part I get asked about more than anything else in my work with risk matrices. You see, most risk matrices give you one impact score. You write them once, you get one number, and that number goes into the register. So far, so good. The problem is that the consequence of a risk in your organization is not just one thing. More often than not, it's several things at once. Let me show you what I mean. I work with an organization that had a critical software vendor, a SaaS company. This vendor provided the core platform the whole team ran on. And the risk was that the vendor, if it becomes available for an extended period of time, you simply have no team. Basically, what's the impact of that? Well, financially, you could say that it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for the recovery, and the alternative for sourcing another operator could be 2 or 3 weeks. So will this lead to significant disruption on your service delivery? It might have some customers very unhappy. It might mean that you might also need your service level agreements with other vendors and contractors. So a cascade of events could happen by this one disruption. Now, if you force all of that in a single number, what would that be? Medium, high? The truth is that you cannot capture all of it in just the one number. So here's what I do in practice, and this is the dimension layer that is built on the risk assessment matrix. Instead of one consequence score, I use the average of 4. For example, financial, operational, reputational, and regulatory. Each one rated separately on its own scale. Same risks, let's say, for example, the financial impact can be 5, the operational impact could be 2, which is minor disruption, the reputational impact could be 3, which could be about moderate, depending on your descriptions. And some could argue that the regulatory impact could be major due to the contractual consequences, and it could be a 4. All of this can be customized. Don't worry about that. I'll show you how. Now, I have a more complete picture when I see these 4 dimensions to get a better sense what's the actual consequence. And in this case, the composite will be about 3.5. That's medium high, but the individual dimensions tell me something a single number never could, that this risks is primarily regulatory and a financial problem if it happens. Operationally is manageable, which in turn shapes where I put my efforts to help with the mitigating actions. So here's the practical insight. If you only have one dimension, you are not doing it wrong. You are doing it, which is a start. And if you have 4 or more, you are doing it well. If you have 10, you are clearly running a sophisticated operation and you have the governance to support it. But just bear in mind that more dimensions just give you richer information, but they also require more work to keep it consistent through the entire risk register. This is a spectrum, so you can pick up your level according to your own organization and own it. The point is, high alone doesn't tell you much. High because the financial impact is devastating, the operational is completely manageable. That is a useful sentence that you could use with your board. And that's a conversation that you can do something about. That is why a properly calibrated RAM with a couple of dimensions can help you better. Okay, so all of that is good and well, but how do we calibrate the RAM? We have the matrix to begin with, and we add some dimensions with the scores. But who decides what is likely or what even likely means? Here's where the calibration begins. And this is the thing that fixes the opening problem that we mentioned at the beginning, with 2 people having 2 different scores for the same risk and both of them being right. Without calibration, likely is whatever the person assessing the risk think it is, which means they are competent, they are well-intentioned people, but they have 2 different ratings and you just need the one, right? So in order to make your register consistent, and in turn the decisions that you made from it consistent and reliable, you need to start defining the criteria that you are going to use when rating those risks and build the scale with words attached, so we are all on the same page. Here's what a simple calibrated likelihood looks like in practice. Bear in mind that you have to adjust it to your organization's circumstances and risk appetite. And with that said, very unlikely, let's say the probability in this case is less than 1%. We have not seen this happen in over 25 years in our industry, and it will be a genuine outlier. While unlikely means less than 10%, it has happened elsewhere in the industry and we are aware of it, and it could happen here. Possible means probability less than 20%, and it has happened in organization or ones like it. We will not be surprised if it happens here. Likely, in this case, probability is between 20 and 50%, and we have seen this happen more than once. We'll be surprised if it did not happen in the next year or 2. And very likely, in this particular case, as shown on the screen, probability above is 50%. This almost is an event that we can expect to see at least once per year. Depending on your organization, this is how the calibration looks like. Every word has a meaning. Every person rating a risk then in your organization has the same ruler. Do the same for consequence. Now, for the financial thresholds, what is a 1 versus 5 in terms of dollars? If we are talking about operations, it's hours of downtime, the major KPI that is important for you. If we are talking about regulatory, what kind of breaches or penalties are we talking about? Better yet, you could have your senior managers own their own dimensions from the RAM and have them to keep them up to date. For example, the CFO could own the financial consequences scale, the operation managers could own the operational consequences scale, and so on and so forth. Once you have done that, at least once, you use the same scale for years. You are not calibrating before every assessment, you are building a shared language that the whole organization can speak. It's a bit like the financial reporting rules. You don't want to be changing them frequently so you can compare financial statements between periods. The same principle applies here. You want to be able to compare your risk registers from one period to the next. And this matters. That shared language is not valid until your board finally adopts it. Without that authority, someone will always reinterpret the numbers when the answer is not right. So the calibration conversation needs to be institutionalized, not just documented. So two people using the same calibrated scale will land very similar risk scores, and that is the goal. Now, come RAM pitfalls. Even when the risk assessment matrix has been calibrated, there are three ways around will quietly mislead you. So the failure number one is the range compression. This is when different risks collapse into the same score. You see it with, for example, everything is median, every single risk, or most of them even, are rated median. And you look the two that are supposedly to have the same priority, and one of them nearly ended the business last quarter. So range compression, when it happens, what it means is that the scale has no real separation. When one person is rating the risk, is using an uncalibrated RAM, hence ending in very similar scores regardless of the actual likelihood or impact. And this is how everything starts looking the same. It's the same colors, and in that case, it doesn't really tell you much. The second type of failure I see with RAMs is the false numerical precision. The score looks mathematical. A 4x4 gives you 16, a 3x3 gives you 9. 16 is bigger than 9, so the first risk is worse, right? Case closed. Well, not quite. You are multiplying regular scales. You are not measuring physical quantities. A score of 12 is not twice as bad as 6. It's just higher on the ranking scale. And the metrics implies mathematical rigor, which doesn't really have. If you treat the output as a precise mathematical result, it will make you overconfident in your decisions. You really need to look at where it lands in the matrix. After all, a very unlikely risk, like a fire in your offices, has a massive consequence. We can all agree on that. The office is burning down. But it's not to be dismissed lightly because it has a low score in the end. The third type of failure I see with the RAMs is the static snapshot. The RAM captures a risk at the moment in time, and it shows you where it sits the last time you assess it, but it does not show you velocity or how quickly it's developing. It also doesn't show the interconnection with other risks, unless you got certain software for that. And it doesn't show you emerging risks, the ones you just don't know you have. I worked with a business that had a dormant supply chain risk on the register, and it had been sitting there in the low-medium zone for years. Then a weather event and a port disruption hit within the same week, and that risk went from dormant to critical in 48 hours. The metrics have not changed, the reality had. Now, manual versus automated software to do risk assessment, including the RAM. Yes, there is software out there that does all of this. Enterprise GRC platforms, integrated risk management tools, automated risk register that generate the scores for you. All of that is good and well. But my honest view on that is that manual or automated, the logic is still the same. And if you don't know what the software is doing, which generates a score for you, you won't be able to understand the calibration might be off. And in turn, it means you are not understanding the benefits of your own system. You are just clicking buttons and trusting the output can be explained with the generic documentation that you might have had. And that is a problem. Software that nobody understands is just a more expensive Excel, and it's just a black box. Leadership asks you to justify the score, just saying the system generated or the AI generated, that is not an answer. But someone that understands the fundamentals, they can challenge the output, they can maintain the system when the business changes, and they can also make the case to the leadership why a score should be recalibrated. The system doesn't know it all. Whether you use an Excel document or an enterprise platform, knowing what the numbers means is what gives you the edge. That understanding makes you better at both. Now, let's have a look at an example using the RAM. So this will bring together with one example what we have discussed so far, and we will score the same risk in 3 ways. Let's take a generic vendor risk software partner or an SaaS company. Let's say it becomes unavailable for more than 5 consecutive business days due to bankruptcy, infrastructure outage, or cybersecurity incident, which leads to our projects be delayed 2+ weeks. And this means revenue impact, the customer SLA breaches, and increased workload on the teams. So if we look here, a gut feeling could be, well, that's not likely to happen to us, but it could be a high consequence. So we got 2x5 thing. Second, let's say we got the calibrated with a single dimension, the RAM, and say, after all, yes, it could happen to us, but the impact is not that great, so 3x3, 9. So let me show you right now in the sample document what this means. When we talk about likelihood, first we were saying it's unlikely, which is this here, and now we are saying, okay, it is actually possible. And regarding the magnitude, here we got 4 dimensions: financial, operational, reputational, and regulatory. And depending where we go with it, we got our inherent magnitude. In this case, if we just got 1 dimension, that's all there is to it. But let's say for the next example, if we got the fully developed matrix with a couple of dimensions, for this particular example, the financial consequence could be catastrophic, the operational consequence could be minor, the reputational impact could be medium, and the regulatory impact could be major. So that is 5, 2, 3, and 4. We got them here at the bottom. And as average, rounded it up, will be 4. And that's what it gives us, this 4. And it becomes 12. And right there, you can see the difference. Gut feeling, 10, 1 dimension, 9, several dimensions, 12. Same risk, very different scores. And this is what I'm talking about getting consistent how you rate your risks, so you can have a consistent answer to them, and treatment, of course. Now, here's what I want you to take away from this video. The risk assessment matrix is the soul of your risk register. The moment it becomes useful is when you define what your dimensions and scales are in your organization and what that means, approved by the board, of course. Then you can compare and improve on it. Calibrate it once in a while, couple years, and use the scale for years. Score consistently, then the risk register stop lying to you. The next time someone asks you to explain a risk score, you will be better prepared to do so. Not because the software told you so, or your Excel document told you so. It's because you understand what those numbers means. And this is what makes you genuinely useful in any organization. That is what makes you the person they want hiring. If you want to go deeper on this, I have a free risk register template in the description. It has a sample risk assessment matrix built into it with 4 sample consequence dimensions and some generic likelihood criterion, which is the one I used to walk you through today. Grab it, use it, drop your questions in the comments. In the next video, we will talk about inherent risks versus residual risk, and what are the most common pitfalls I see happening. And with that said, see you in the next layer.